everyone. Hare Krishna, Arjun Saka Prabhuji. Thank you so much, Prabhuji, for coming on the call and giving us your association. All glories to Srila Prabhupada and our pranams. Prabhuji, please take over the call, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Mataji, Dandavat Pranams, and Hare Krishna and Dandavat Pranams to all the devotees present here. Please accept my most humble respected obeisances. Vansha kalpatarubhyascha, kripa sindhubhya evacha, patitanam pavanebhyo, vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. This morning, we are reading from the pages of the Sri Chaitanya Bhagavat, which is given to us by Srila Vrindavan Das Thakur. This is the section of Madhya Khanda, chapter 3, and there are a lot of verses that are assigned. So in the interest of time, we will not be going through all the verses. I'll just take the initial 2 verses and the last verse, but we will discuss the whole section. So this is Chaitanya Bhagavat, Madhya Khanda, chapter 3, text 60 to text 100. So that there are 40 verses. That's a very long section. Text 60. Prasangeshu naha nityanandera akhyan sutra rupe janma karma kichuka hitan. In this connection, please hear the narration regarding Nityananda. I will briefly describe his birth and activities in the form of codes. Text 61. Radha desha eka chaka name ache gram jahi janmi lena nitya nanda bhagavan. In Radhadesh, there is a village named Ekachakra, where Lord Nityananda took birth. We'll go now to the last verse, which is verse number 100. Prabhu ke na chhade jara he na anurag Vishnu Vaishnavera e achintya prabhav. Why does the Lord leave someone who is so attached to him? This is the inconceivable authority of Lord Vishnu and the Vaishnavas. One may question in this regard that being affectionate to his devotees, how did Lord Nityananda ignore his father's attachment for him? In answer to this, it can be said that the potency of Lord Vishnu and the Vaishnavas is incomparable. Their prowess is immeasurable by human calculation. Shri Nityananda Prabhu ki jai. So of course, as we see, this is the very wonderful section of Shri Nityananda Prabhu. And this is the early life of Nityananda Prabhu as to how he appeared in Ekachakra, how he performed his very, very sweet, wonderful pastimes there. And as mentioned, it is 40 verses. So in the interest of time, we cannot go through all of them. But after the class, if we have time, if we can chalk out some time from our schedule, then we can definitely go through these verses. A very beautiful section where Vrindavan Das Thakur glorifies Nityananda Prabhu and gives details about how he appeared, what he did, and what are the different things that unfolded. Before we start, let us offer the Mangalacharan prayers, seek auspiciousness from our spiritual superiors like Srila Prabhupada, and then get started in our today's discussion. Vansha kalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhya evacha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Om ajnanatimirandhasya jnananjana shalakaya chakshurunmilitam yena tasmai shri gurave namaha. Shri Chaitanya manobhishtam sthapitam yena bhutale swayam rupa kadamayyam Tadati swapadantikam vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavangscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhan Vitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Shri Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanostute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Preshthaya Bhutale Shrimate Bhakti Vedanta Swamineti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadhi Paschatya Deshatarine Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabho Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Brinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Gurave Gaurachandraya Radhikaya Tadaliye Krishnaya Krishna Bhaktaya Tadbhaktaya Namo Namaha Anandalilamaya Vigrahaya Hemavadivya Chavisundaraya Tasmai Mahaprema Rasapradaya Chaitanya Chandraya Namo Namaste Chaitanya Chandraya Namo Namaste Chaitanya Chandraya Namo Namaste Nityanandam Aham Naomi Sarvanandakaram Param Harinama Pradam Devam Avadhuta Shiromani. Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu ki Jai. Shri Nityananda Ram ki Jai. Samasta Gaura Bhakta Vrinda ki Jai. Hare Krishna. Before I begin, I really want to express my heartfelt gratitude to all the devotees present here, and also to the organizers of the Bhakti Sangha. Very, very happy to be back after a very long time. I was in India, traveling, also in Vrindavan. Krishna was kind that I could spend Janmashtami and Nandotsav in the holy land of Vrindavan Dham. So because of that, there was a long break here in serving Bhakti Sangha, but very, very happy to be back in the service of all the Vaishnavas present. As we mentioned, this is the section of Nityananda Prabhu. And Nityananda Prabhu's childhood leelas, childhood pastimes are very, very glorious. Often less talked about. We often speak about Nityananda Prabhu and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu after the Sankirtan movement began, or after Nitai went to Mayapur and how he met Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, etc. We start the pastimes of Nitai mostly from that aspect. But we see that Nityananda Prabhu's childhood pastimes were very, very sweet and very glorious. And oftentimes Nitai would be in the mood of Krishna. He would enact different pastimes of Krishna, and he would pull his friends also. And he would teach his friends, you act this way, this is the storyline. So Nitai would be the director, he would be the producer, he would be everything. And he would make movies, very beautiful Krishna Leela depictions. And Nitai would do that. And his friends who were there, or his cowherd friends, they were all very small. And Nitai was also very small. So no one was in a state where they could read books and understand. There was no Veda base. There were none of these books. There was no internet. So this children were very small, they could not read. So they would heavily rely on Nityananda Prabhu. Whatever Nitai would say, they would accept it. And they would perform different pastimes. And most of these pastimes, the depictions were from the 10th canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam. And sometimes he would also get into the mood of Ramayana. So Nitai would be in the mood of performing pastimes from the pages of Valmiki Ramayana. Nitai many times would call all his friends and they would enter into a house and he would shut all the doors. He would shut all the windows, he would shut all the doors, and it would be night, completely dark. And we're talking 500 years back, so there would be no tube light and there was no electricity and none of these things. So when they would close, it would be completely dark. And Nityananda Prabhu would look at his friends. The friends would look at Nitai and say, what is this new pastime? Everything is dark. What is this new pastime? Nitai would say, this is the appearance of Krishna. This is night time and our Lala is going to appear now. And he would very beautifully depict how in the prison house, Vasudeva Maharaj and Devaki, for them Krishna appeared. And then Nitai would call one of his another friend and he would dress him like Vasudeva Maharaj. He would put a basket on his head. He would put a baby doll on his head and he would say, now you're Vasudeva Maharaj, you have to cross this river. And outside Nitai's house, there was like a small river. So you would say, now you have to perform this pastime. The friends were clueless because they had not heard this pastime. We have heard it over and over again, so we know the storyline. For the friends, it was relatively new, but they would still do. Nowadays, we find oftentimes children, when they're even very, very small, 3, 4, and 5, even parents encourage them to dance to film music. Not just dance to film music, you dance to film music and then you also upload that online and then you get views and likes and comments or whatever, and the parents are happy. And it's such a complete change that we find in comparison to Nityananda Prabhu's childhood. Nityananda Prabhu would call his friends and perform different pastimes of Krishna Leela. And sometimes even the parents were clueless. They were thinking, how is it Nitai knows so much? There were pastimes he would depict, even the parents had no idea. And they would think, how did Nitai, he's so small, from where did he learn so much? Is Harai Pandit teaching? His Padmavati teaching? No. There are some pastimes. They would go and ask Harai Pandit, did you teach him this pastime? They would say, no, we are also hearing it for the first time. Even we have no idea. So our Nityananda Prabhu was very transcendentally eccentric, Avadut. And Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur actually comments, and he brings in Sridhar Swami's commentary and he says, what is the meaning of Avadut? Oftentimes we say Avaduta Shiromani Nityananda Ram. So Saraswati Thakur comments and he says that Avadut is not a personality who is aloof from the world. It's not that he is not aware. Oftentimes Nityananda Prabhu would perform pastimes where it would appear as if he is aloof from the world. He is not aware of the situation. But Sridhar Swami and Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, they comment by saying, Avadut are those personalities, they are there in this world, but their mind and heart is completely attached 100% at the lotus feet of Shyamasundar Shri Krishna. So their body is here, their existence is here, but the mind and heart is completely attached. And because of that, sometimes it may appear, because their actions would be such, sometimes it would appear that they're not part of this world or they are disconnected from this world. But Sridhar Swami commented, it's not that way. They are still part of this world. I remember one devotee had mentioned that when we met him, and he knew Aindra Prabhu very well. So we went and asked him that, can you tell us something about Aindra Prabhu? And he was leaving. So we were there in the temple and he was practically leaving. So he had practically only 5 seconds to speak. And he said, the only thing that comes to my mind is Aindra Prabhu was an Avadut. He was an Avadut. In fact, Mahatma Prabhu in his memories, he says, I call Aindra Prabhu as a Tattva. You see, you have Tattvas. Tattvas are very difficult to understand. So he says, I call Aindra as a Tattva because he was very difficult to understand. Most people could not understand Aindra Prabhu. So he would say, I offer my obeisances to Aindra Tattva because he was very difficult to understand. So here we find Nityananda Prabhu. Oftentimes was like an avadut, very transcendently eccentric. And he would perform different pastimes like this. He would call his friends and they would enter into a house, and all the milk products that would be there, Nitai with his friends would completely plunder like that of Krishna. Of course, there were no monkeys, but Nityananda Prabhu still managed to get into the mood of Krishna and plunder everything. Sometimes he would be in the mood of Krishna and he would pick up like a small rock and he would say, I'm lifting Giriraj. Oh no, the left hand. I am lifting Giriraj. And he would lift and he would say, Anior, Anior, give me more, give me more. And the friends, now where will the friends go for Chapan Bhog? They are small friends. So they would bring their tiffin box and they would give tiffin box in front of Nitai, and Nitai would eat the tiffin box. Sometimes our Nityananda Prabhu, he would go into the forest and he would shake the tal trees and the fruits would fall and he would say, these fruits are for everyone. In the mood as to how Balaram shook the tal trees and killed Dhenukasur. It's the same personality. It's the same personality. So our Nitai is sometimes in the mood of Krishna and sometimes in the mood of Balaramji. He's like a honeybee. Wherever he's getting sweetness, he's taking that and he's performing pastimes. Sometimes our Nitai, outside his house, there would be a bakul tree. You see, oftentimes we may or may not have heard, prior to ISKCON, we may or may not have heard bakul tree. But this bakul tree became famous for generations to come together. It became so famous because of one personality, that is Haridas Thakur. Haridas Thakur sat under that one tree and he not only spread the glories of Harinam, he also spread the glories of bakul tree, which probably no one had ever heard. We see in Jagannath Puri, we have this place called La Siddha Bakul. The tree was bakul, but because of Thakur Mahashay's chanting, it became Siddha, completely perfect, completely glorious. So outside Nityananda Prabhu's house, there would also be a bakul tree. So Nityananda Prabhu, one time, he went to that bakul tree and he started ripping all the branches. And his friends were curious. Hey, Nitai, what is this? What is this new pastime? And Nityananda Prabhu ripped all the branches. And as we mentioned, outside his house, there was a kund called as Padmavati Kund. It's very interesting. His mother's name was also Padmavati. So the kund was there, Padmavati Kund. And Nitai took the branches of the bakul tree and he made them into the hoods of Kaliya. And with those branches, he placed them underwater. And our Nitai, in the mood of Krishna, would enter into the water and he would dance, just like Krishna danced on the hoods of Kaliya. And now when these friends, when they tried to enter, they were all so much into the pastime. It was not just a depiction, but they were so much into the pastime that when these friends of Nitai, when they entered into the waters of Padmavati Kund, they also became unconscious. They practically died, just like we find in Krishna Leela. Krishna's friends, they sipped little water and they also became unconscious and they also practically died. And our Krishna came and revived them back. Same, fast forward. That was 5,000 years back. This is 500 years back. Nitai, through the branches of Bakul tree, is dancing in Ekachakra Dham. He is dancing and praying to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. I have appeared in this world. Where are you? Gaura, Kothai, where are you? Please come down. And Nitai would rescue all his friends who had become unconscious. Sometimes he would be in the mood of Ramayana. And he, in the mood of Lakshman, would fight Indrajit. And as we know in Ramayana, how Indrajit shot the arrow and Jambavan and our Lakshman, the arrows pierced them and they were profusely bleeding and they were injured. Nityananda Prabhu, in that mood, he told one of his friends, you become Indrajit, I will become Lakshman, let's have a fight. And that friend, he said, okay, whatever Nitai wants. He picked up his arrow And that was a pushpa arrow, arrow of flowers. So he shot the arrow at Nitai, and Nitai fell down to the ground. Nitai fell down to the ground and he wouldn't get up. Our Nityananda Prabhu wouldn't get up. So his friends started waking him up. Hey, Nitai, get up. But Nitai is not getting up. They sprinkled water. Nitai is not getting up. They called Hadai Pandits and Padmavati Devi. And they are sprinkling water and they say Nitai is not getting up. They call all the parents of Ekachakra Dham, you please do something. We started a game, but seems like Nityananda Prabhu is too much into the pastime. He's not getting up now. So you do something. And they were all trying to wake up Nitai. Nitai is not getting up. At that time, one friend realized, I am Hanuman. Nitai had asked him to become Hanuman, but that friend was so much into the pastime, he forgot his role. He forgot that he had to go and get the Sanjeevani medicines. He forgot his role and he realized, hey, I am Hanuman. He asked me to become Hanuman. So he went nearby and he got some herbs and he placed it. And Nityananda Prabhu came back to consciousness. And Nitai looked at his friend and said, don't forget your role next time. I cannot be unconscious for such a long time. You better protect me and revive me faster. So Nitai's childhood was very, very, very sweet, very glorious. And as Nitai in Ekachakra Dham was spreading this sweetness, one day one sannyasi comes there. He comes to the house of Hadai Pandit and Padmavati Devi. And as he comes to their home, even before entering the home, the sannyasi tells Hadai Pandit and Padmavati Devi, I will enter your home, but there is one condition. If you promise to fulfill that condition, I will come. And now you don't reject the desire of a sannyasi. Imagine a Prabhupada disciple is coming to our home and he's asking something. You will not reject. If it's within our means to provide, we will make sure that we can offer it to them. So Hadai Pandit said, okay. And he made sure that this sannyasi has a nice place to sit. They wash their lotus feet. And they very nicely served this sannyasi. And all night, Chaitanya Bhagavat explains, all night this sannyasi was speaking about the pastimes of Krishna. And Hadai Pandit and our little Nitai, who already knew all the pastimes, who was actually enacting all of them, still he sat down and heard the katha. It practically shows that even if someone is Bhagavan, even the Supreme Lord is interested to hear katha. Krishna's pastimes are very, very fresh. Bhagavatam very beautifully explains in the 12th canto. One quality of Krishna's pastimes is, it is ever fresh. There are so many pastimes. You see Damodar Leela, Shakatasur, Arishtasur, Keshi, etc. We have all heard it. But every time we hear it, it is ever fresh. The more we hear, the more we want to hear. And the more we want to hear to the extent where we can even share it with others. Right? And that's pretty much the mood of ISKCON. We want to preach what we have heard. We want to give that happiness to others. We have DYS courses. We have Journey of Self-Discovery. We have IYF. We have Bhakti Vrikshas. And preaching is going on in every place, every nook and corner. Why? Because what we have heard, we want others also to experience that. So Krishna's pastimes are ever fresh. And Nityananda Prabhu, even though he's the first expansion of Krishna, he's Baladev Prabhu, but still he's hearing all night, he's hearing Katha. Next day morning, when the sun rose, the sannyasi looked at Hadai Pandit and said, you remember I had asked you for something? Hadai Pandit said, yes, whatever you want. And this came as a shock. It came as a thunderbolt for Hadai Pandit because he had not expected sannyasi to ask his life heir. Nityananda Prabhu was the life heir of Hadai Pandit. Vrindavan Das Thakur explains. The sannyasi looked eye to eye at Hadai Pandit and said, I want your son. I don't have a brahmachari assistant. I am traveling, going to different holy places. I want your son to assist me. And Hadai Pandit couldn't even speak practically because he had not expected this. Nitai was his life heir. Every place he would see only Nitai. Ito Nitai, Parato Nitai. If he plays, he would see only Nitai. And that Nitai is now being snatched from him. He went to Padmavati Devi and said, what should I do? Sannyasi is asking. Padmavati Devi said, whatever you want, whatever you desire, I am okay. Now you can understand the mother's heart. Normally the fathers are a little strict. But mother's heart is very, very, very soft. Srila Prabhupada would say, devotees, when they are preaching, they should be like a British officer, very strict, but heart should be like a Bengali mother, very, very soft. The mother said, whatever you decide. And finally it was decided to hand over Nitai Chand. Nityananda Prabhu is like a radiating, glittering moon. Arakabe Nitai Chande Karuna hoibe Samsara vasana mora kabe tocha hoibe. Who is Nityananda Prabhu? Nitai Chand. Very, very effulgent. In fact, it is explained when Nitai would perform his baby pastimes, childhood pastimes, the friends would be there with Nitai all day and night. They would be there till sunset. And the friends, they would tell their mother that we will come home. They would tell their parents, we will come home, you don't come. The parents would say, no, we will come and pick you. Why? Because in the pretext of picking you, we can see the glittering face of Nityananda Prabhu. We can see the moon-like face of Nitai. And now that moon-like face, Ayendra Prabhu would call Chaitanya Mahaprabhu as the honeymoon-like face. He would say, who is Gauranga Mahaprabhu? Is the honeymoon-like face. Honey-faced dancing Lord of my life, he would say. Who is Gauranga Nityananda? Honey-faced dancing Lord of my life. And now that dancing Lord, that honeymoon-like face, is now taken away by the sannyasi. Just like in Ramayana we find, Vishwamitra Muni went to Dasharath Maharaj and said, can you give me your son Ram? Dasharath Maharaj said, you take whatever you want. Daya karo. I cannot give my son. And then finally, as the storyline unfolds, he gave his son, but he didn't give his son, he gave his life heir. As Sri Ram left, his life heir also left and Dasharath Maharaj left. And similarly here, Harai Pandit gave his son Nitai. He practically gave his life heir. After that, it is explained Harai Pandit and Padmavati were living, but they were only living for namesake. Their life heir had gone, Nitai had gone. And Nitai was traveling to different holy places. Just like Balaram traveled to different holy places. And Balaram is a very interesting personality. He tells Krishna, I don't want to fight. I will go for Tirth Yatra. And he goes for Tirth Yatra and kills Romaharshan. That is Balaram's Tirth Yatra. He goes on a pilgrimage and kills. And so in that mood, Nityananda Prabhu is going to different places. The difference is Nityananda Prabhu doesn't kill. But in the mood of Balaramji, he is going. Now the question arises, who was that sannyasi? And sometimes it is explained. Now, different people have different understandings. Some people say that that sannyasi was none other than Mahaprabhu's older brother Vishwarup. But we find that this is technically not correct because when Nitai left home, 1486, Vishwarup was only 4 years old. And Vishwarup had not taken sannyas. So if Vishwarup is only 4 years old and he has not taken sannyas, how can Vishwarup come and take Nityananda Prabhu? Because Chaitanya Bhagavat clearly explains a sannyasi, young sannyasi came, but Vishwarup was not a sannyasi that time. So that logic is ruled out. The sannyasi who came was not Vishwarup. Some say it was Lakshmipati Tirtha. We see in our Sampradaya, there's one Acharya called as Lakshmipati Tirtha. He also goes by the name Ananda Tirtha. Some say it was Lakshmipati Tirtha. But we find if it was Lakshmipati Tirtha, then Bhakti Ratnakar would clearly explain that that sannyasi was Lakshmipati Tirtha. Even Vrindavan Das Thakur would have mentioned that that sannyasi is Lakshmipati Tirtha because it is a prominent Acharya. Even besides that, we find that Lakshmipati Tirtha in the year of 1486 was very, very old. But here Chaitanya Bhagavat explains the sannyasi was very young. So Lakshmipati Tirtha is also ruled out. Now it's very interesting to note that in Hari Bhakti Vilas, in Bhakti Ratnakar, we find that Nityananda Prabhu is considered the disciple of Lakshmipati Tirtha. Nityananda Prabhu is considered the disciple of Lakshmipati Tirtha, but in another book called as Pramaya Ratnavali, Nityananda Prabhu is considered the disciple of Madhavendra Puri. So now there is a transcendental discrepancy. Whose disciple is Nitai? Now, oftentimes we take it into consideration that he is Madhavendra Puri's disciple. But Bhakti Ratnakar has something different to say. It says that Nita is the disciple of Lakshmipati Tirtha. So Lakshmipati Tirtha, his disciple is Madhavendra Puri, and that's how the Sampradaya continues. Ishvara Puri, then Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So our understanding is Mahaprabhu, his Gurudev is Ishvara Puri, then Madhavendra Puri, and Lakshmipati Tirtha. Bhakti Ratnakar says Nityananda Prabhu is Lakshmipati Tirtha's disciple. While a book called as Pramaya Ratnavali says Nityananda Prabhu is Madhavendra Puri's disciple. So whose disciple is Nityananda Prabhu? Only Krishna knows. Only Nitai knows. But oftentimes we take it into consideration that he is Madhavendra Puri's disciple that way. So we find that Sri Nityananda Ram has now left his home and he has gone with a sannyasi. We see if conditioned living entities of this world can find Krishna Katha attractive, how much more attractive will it be for transcendental personalities? If people like you and I like and relish Krishna Katha, how much relishable it will be for Nityananda Prabhu. Lord Shiva leaves Kailas and comes to Naimisharanya to hear Gaur Katha. Navadvip Dham Mahatmya explains Bhaktivinoda Thakur. Narottam Das Thakur, who is the son of a landlord, very, very rich, very aristocratic. Sadhu comes, Narottam Das Thakur, Gaur Premananda, leaves his home. Vamshidas Babaji Maharaj left his wife and 6-month-old baby after listening to the Katha of a Sadhu. Prahlad Maharaj fought the demoniac forces sent by his father just by hearing Krishna Katha of Narad Muni. Vishwarup left home after hearing Katha of Advaita Acharya. Nityananda Prabhu left home after hearing Katha of this Sadhu. So hear Katha at your own risk. What is going to happen, no one knows. That day is not far that you are also hearing Katha and you also leave home. Because the nature of Katha, the 11th canto Bhagavatam explains, Bhakti Paresha Anubhavo Viraktir. The nature of Krishna Katha is such, 3 things happen simultaneously. Bhakti will rise in the heart. Second, Paresha Anubhavo. Anubhava means experience. Experience, direct experience of whom? Parayisha, of the Supreme Lord. One will get direct experience of the Supreme Lord. First, his bhakti will rise. Second, direct experience of the Lord. And third, virakti, renunciation. All 3 happen simultaneously. It's not that one happens, then there is 10 years waiting, then another 10 years. No. All 3 happen simultaneously. Bhakti, Paresha, Anubhava, Viraktir, Anyatra Chaisa, 3 Ekakala. In one moment, all 3 happen. This is the 11th canto of the Bhagavatam, chapter 2, text 42. 11 to 42. Bhakti, Paresha, Anubhavo, Viraktir. All 3 happen simultaneously. And the example that is given by our acharyas is just like when you're hungry.